I'm not going to read from my own work tonight. I've selected two pieces as I was talking with Tim and the rest of the folks here about the efforts that we're trying to make to bring those of us who are creative problem solvers and leaders in our own realm. How can we claim this public space? So I began to look through some of my favorite works, and I pulled two pieces. One of them was written by Langston Hughes.
Okay, we're going to get cracking. So, first things first, welcome. My name's Ellen Wadey. I'm the director of the Guild Complex, and we're really happy to have you here tonight. You know, the Guild, for those of you who don't know us, have been around. The complex has been around for 15 years, but if you count the whole history, we're actually 25 years old this year. We started as an independent bookstore across the street from the Biograph Theater, and you know, we're very proud of the fact that we continue to promote independent voices, and voices that aren't often represented either on reading lists or on stages, and that we've been doing it for that long. So I want to thank you for coming. I also want to thank everyone who is participating in this event. You know, this is a fledgling effort, and I think you can see that it is a fledgling effort. But you know what? You got to start somewhere. So you never feel bad about putting a first and a good step forward. Our interest in Tom Tresser and some of the other people on the roster, we'll talk about it more, but I guess the best way to talk about it, I was talking with one of our we have an incubator going on, and I would say if you're interested in the things the Guild is doing, here's our calendar. We have a lot of stuff going on, we always do, and it's very eclectic. It comes at things from different angles. Our interest is in intersections, and we take intersections and cross-cultural dialogue and we define them in the broadest terms, which means we're not just interested in race or ethnicity or gender or sexual identity or generations. We're interested in all of it. And we're interested in, instead of passing each other by, taking a step back and really seeing what it means to be in dialogue with someone who is different than you, as well as those who you think are the same as you, but sometimes you find out when you start talking that's not the case. But this evening, you know, I was talking to one of our incubator artists, which Universes is a project we've got coming up with the MCA, and Vicki was saying to me, she's 24, and she grew up in Humboldt Park. She lived in New York for a while. And she said, you know, I'm registered to vote, but I really don't, like, I look at the choices, and I think, well, and you know, I'm not for profit, I can't advocate anything, but she said, I look at the choices, and even though I know the way I'm going to vote, I wish there were better choices. And I said, well, that's what tonight is about. You know, think if you could look at a ballot and there were people's names on that ballot who thought in a way that was energized and creative and didn't think just in how do I get elected, but how do I make a difference? How do I make the world a better place? How do I make the world a different place than what I live in right now? And that's really what tonight is about. So this is our first step, and we're going to take other steps in that direction. But it's really so that hopefully in the days to come, you look at those ballots and you see those kind of names on the ballots where you're like, yeah, that's somebody who's really thinking through the process, who's really thinking about what it means to be part of a society and not just what it means to get an office. So again, thank you so much for being here tonight. I am now going to turn the mic over to Tom Tresser, but of course, I have to give him an introduction. Oh, well, then never mind, I'm not needed. So Tom's going to bring his own introducer. So there we are.
It's an intimate surrounding. I'm going to sit down. So I'm going to just give you guys a few minutes before I introduce Tom. My name is Charles Shaw. I'm on the board and the steering committee for Creative America, and Tom and I have known each other for a few years now. We met when we were both hanging around this cat named Richard Florida that you may or may not have heard of. I'm really excited to see any interest at all in what we're doing. And I don't mean that, as it sounds, but I mean it in the sense that these are very, very difficult times that we're in. And they are a-changing, and they're changing fast. And there's a lot going on, and people are overstimulated, and people are tired, and people are exhausted, and people are mad, and people are all these things. And one thing they're getting, but they're not particularly right now, is organized. But there's a lot of talk of organization, and that's what I do. I'm a writer, I'm an activist, I'm an organizer. And, the friendship, the love affair between art and politics is not new. This is something that is, these are old friends, and they've found many houses to live in, and this is only a new one that we're introducing here. But what I've always admired about Tom, and what I've always admired about the people involved in this project, and then people who do similar work like this, is that it is very selfless work. It's very hard to do. There's nothing glamorous about trying to turn people on to new ideas that they may be resistant to in the first place. What is constant throughout all of it is the power of creativity and the power of art to shape social change. And I think that we've grown into this very kind of commodified and organized society, but underneath it is really just the same heartbeat of creativity and action. And what it all boils down to is those that do something, that get up, that are motivated by whatever reason to get up and actually make some kind of change or try to participate in it, and then those people who just tune it out. And it's all too easy to tune things out these days. There's so much distraction out there that, it's like the siren sitting on the rock calling you, come on, just relax, get on the rock, it's fun. Who needs the boat? Come with us, we'll eat you. And it does eat you, it consumes you. That's why you're a consumer. But I like to say that we are like sustainers. We are people that try to sustain whatever exists, or whatever can exist. We believe another world is possible. And there's lots of different ways that we could go about making that world possible, but what Creative America talks about is getting people engaged in their communities. And I can't think of somebody better to represent that than Tom, who took what is hardly a glamorous position with the school board in his district because he knew that it was an important position, that kids need to learn and they need good direction, and schools need organization and they need leaders, and why not take this little example and replicate it all over the place? And so what we're trying to do, and what Tom's going to talk to you about at length, is about getting people to understand that politicians don't have to be politicians. You can be involved in the political process. Americans have lost their connection to their own political process, and they got to re-find it again. Because if we ever hope to change things, if we ever hope to get, the slick politicos with the Teflon hairdos out of the way, then we have to go and take their place. And so, no Teflon yet. Teflon potential, but we'll work on that later. So this is one of my closest friends. This is a man I admire a lot. He's tireless. He has tremendous energy. He's incredibly brilliant, and I hope you guys enjoy talking to Tom Tresser.
Thank you for those great words, Charles. Thank you also to our hosts, Guild Complex and the Chopin Theater. I want to tell you a horror story. Imagine that a spirit of evil and hatred has invaded your body and has possessed you to do things counter to your nature, your heritage, and your will. And you find yourself spewing forth hateful statements, doing things that you never thought you'd do, ostracizing your friends, cutting off your family.
Sounds really familiar.
Yeah. Well, guess what? America's body politic has been possessed by the spirits of the far right. Now here, I know you're on that. Amen. All right, and it's not a mystery what happened here, folks. It's good old American block and tackling politics. a group of people who believe a certain thing, got a bunch of other people to believe what they believe, and then they went and got themselves elected to lower office and then to higher office. And before you know it, it's budget time, it's policy time, it's Patriot Act time, it's war time. And what the Creative America Project is about, as Charles was saying, reclaiming the political space for us. And for people who are in the creative work, artists, people who live by creativity, we say, you guys have a set of skills, a set of values, a set of beliefs that we need desperately in public life to counter what has happened. And just, we don't want to do like a numbers thing on you, but I think it's important that can everyone see these numbers here? Okay. First of all, let's just give ourselves a history lesson. Can we all read together? Let's read this together first. We hold these truths to be self-evident, that all men are created equal, that they are endowed by the Creator with certain unalienable rights. Flip the page. That up. Life, liberty, and the pursuit of happiness, etc., etc. All right, those were written, 200 some odd years ago in a room in Philadelphia. It's a promise. The promise has not been delivered. We know that. It wasn't 100% true at the time, and it's a work in progress. So consider America a work in progress. But the Declaration of Independence was America's first political performance piece. It was written and designed to be read out loud, and that's what happened. The weeks following the ratification of the document, they were sent to the 13 colonies, and they were read out loud in the public square. And as people heard those words read out loud, the image of this thing called the United States of America became real. Because before that, it was just like, where are you from? Oh, I'm from Virginia, or I'm a Massachusetts man, or whatever. People were from the States. But when they heard United States of America read out loud, they go, oh yeah, United States of America. I'm from there. And so that was a creation, and so therefore what I'm saying is the Declaration of Independence was an act of creativity. America itself is a creative act, but a work in progress to deliver on this promise. And that's why this first number is important. 35 million, that's the number of people who were born outside the United States that we know of who are here now to give themselves a new start. Okay, so creativity is right at the heart and soul of America. You come to this country to reinvent yourself. We don't care what your daddy did. We don't care what you had for breakfast. We don't care who you slept with. We just want to know what's here and what's here. And if we like it, we buy it. And that's what's great about this country. All right, well, creativity is also a big business. So this number right here, 526 billion, that's the amount of money that's being generated on the creative industries in this country today. That's a big number, $526 billion. This number right here, Charles alluded to the work of Richard Florida, 38 million, that's the number of people who work in the creative industries. So if you make your living through thinking or creating, solving problems, then we say you're a creative worker, you're making a living through the use of your creative wits. And that's 20% of the entire workforce in America. And it's two classes, 15 million people are what we call the super creatives, and 23 million are creative professionals. What we just want to talk about right this minute is kind of like our band of brothers and sisters, folks who work in the arts-related field. So these are artists, directors, writers, that's almost 2 million people. So if we just started there, never mind the total 38 million, just talk about the 2 million. That's our core constituency. And we want these guys, and you folks even here, to consider running for office yourselves in 2006, and we're talking about school boards, library boards, county clerk, that kind of thing, city council, because that's what the other side has done. So if you want to know how come Harry Potter is being banned in Wichita, or Tom Sawyer in such a place, the answer is because the other side has put their people into those positions. If you want to know how come evolution has to be taught along creationism in Missouri, it's because on the school boards of this local and state are people who think that the Bible should be taught in the public school in that way. All right, so the challenge to us, folks, is a couple things. We have to stand up for creativity in this country because it's under attack. So we as artists or people who love and value creativity can't go to sleep here because the First Amendment, and we know what the First Amendment is that gives us the freedom of expression, is only a piece of paper. And when I was in Washington a few weeks ago, I went to check on it to make sure it was still there. And that they hadn't, they hadn't put all these Lexes on it, and it was still there. Yeah, just checking. And it's actually pretty inspirational to go into the archives to see the founding documents. People approach them with reverence, and they go up to them and they give out an energy. And they go to sort of dip into that energy and file past. And it's quite amazing. But it's only a piece of paper, and the First Amendment is under attack in America today. So let's just take briefly a list of the things that we need to worry about. Creativity is under attack, and how is it under attack? Well, public education is being threatened by the far right. So I'm a product of the public schools of New York City, but if they have their way, then perhaps public schools will be done away with, and you'll be on your own. So public schools is a great way for people to get into the middle class and to get into their professions. And so again, open door, come in, get educated, do your thing, under attack. The separation of church and state. One of the key founding things of this country says that we don't care what you believe, but when you come into public office, keep your religion at home. That would be very nice if you would do that, but that's not happening now as well. So what does that mean? That means if there's a state-sponsored religion and you don't happen to believe in that religion, now you're evil. You see, so I can debate you on the issues. I agree with you, I don't agree with you. But if I attack you on religion, now you're ungodly and you're not fit to live. And then we go down a very dangerous path. So you've got to keep that separation of church and state. How about the funding for the arts? Well, we know the arts are the arts are poorly funded. Anybody here ever try to get a grant? Yeah, okay. And I'm sure they gave you everything you asked for, right? Well, part of the attack on the arts comes from our friends on the far right. So if anybody remembers the first round of culture wars, you may recall the term tax-funded obscenity. So anybody remember Andre Serrano, Robert Mapplethorpe? Okay, well these artists came under attack for their work by the far right. They got maybe 37 cents in public dollars, but it poisoned the well for public funding for the arts for 20 years. So the attack on the arts is part of that larger program from the far right. And then just a few other issues. Funding of science. So scientific research is now being screened by the far right and their religious allies. So things like stem cell research and other issues where you should be judging the merits on the scientific case are now being screened by these ideologues. And then there's something called immigration policy. So people are now afraid to come to this country, or they're being kept out of this country, and we're going to pay the price. Because about 30 or 40% of all the companies that were started in the Silicon Valley days, the go-go days of the internet, were started by foreigners. So if we're going to keep people away, then we're going to lose the benefit of their brain power. And so, in conclusion, just to say that creativity is key to the American character. It's key to our heritage. It's our promise to the world. And it should be elevated as a national priority and a national value. And to do that, we need people like you that think about standing for public office in 2006 and beyond. And the Creative America Project is designed to help you do that. So at events like this, you're trying to get the word out and plant a seed. So thank you very much. Yes, we're going to do the training in next year. That's our end product. And perhaps later tonight we can talk a little bit about what that training will look like. But it sounds crazy, but it's not. It's not.
Kevin, you up first?
Yeah.
Okay. I brought the calendar for the bio, but Kevin's bio isn't in here, so I'm going to be impromptu right now. Kevin Koval worked for the Guild Complex for a while. We're very happy about that. And with Young Chicago Authors, you can hear him on WBEZ. He's a guest commentator on 848. He taped this season for Def Poetry Jam. Yes. Have you heard it yet? Yeah. And just generally known as a voice that is need to be known around the city. So we're very happy to welcome Kevin Koval.
One of the things I'm nervous about right now is that Jews are going to vote Republican, a lot of them, more than any other time in history. And that makes me nervous because I feel like the eventual plan is just to have us in Israel so the apocalypse will come, so Christ can reign on earth, so we can die.
Cool.
Yeah. So that makes me nervous. So this is kind of directed toward really like I guess he's my step-grandfather-in-law or something. I don't know. But it's really for Jews who are about to vote Republican more than any other times in history. It's called Chi-Town Underground Chi-Town Battle Rap for a Dying Zionist. Old man, you jock Republicans like barnacles. Reaganomic nutsacks packed in your mouth like clowns by the carloads. I hope your heart holds more space than trucks in United Parcel. You sold the star skyward to the highest Goliath barcode. Hashem Sparks froze. Now King David throws rocks with slingshots from the golden heights of idols. Resurrect fly kites like Arendt and Goldman round the riot pole. We suppose those chose rock sandals and halos, but you arm guard the ark with handguns and frayed souls. I'm afraid those gates closed on Moses' 5 books won't be opened by idiot boxing rabbis posing grateful as paid brooks. Don't we find it odd the evangelical is our bedfellow? We wallow in tasty pig cakes, claiming we never had trouble. But best believe when I see Jerry Falwell on TV, I guess what he's thinking. Give money to Satan's children till our Lord comes back to beseech them. 144,000 doesn't mean you, Jew. We lost in the house of Babel, backing the fork-tongued and feeble-minded liars, hypocrite Holocaust deniers. The Middle East is an oil field. Israel could be set on fire as long as corporate shields bring the safe through muck and mired. The Middle East is an oil field. Israel could be set on fire as long as corporate shields protect the saved. Doing some research online, and I found this quote on Time Magazine MovieFanForum.com. Maybe you've seen it. January 9th, 2004. Any Jew who blocks access to a theater should be shot. Round them up in chimneys. Smoke shall be their legacy. So I thought that was an incredibly intelligent comment, and I wrote this poem called Hillbilly Bob's Plan of Action. They killed him. Now they're trying to kill the film. The JUCOs who run Hollywood. That boy took a stand, put his money on the line making the movie the way he did. Told it as it was. They hate Christ, drink baby blood, practice voodoo, got magical powers because they birthed from Satan's loins, both genitalia like homosexual sinners. They planned September the 11th. Weren't none of them there when the towers fell. I'll tell you what we're going to do. We're going to load the pickup, put Ma, Cindy, the 7 nephews, Old Yeller, and Moonshine Jim in the gun rack. Round Mr. Charlie's boys in their covered grand wagons. Get all the firepower we can muster. Stop at Chinky Chin's pawn shop. Sell our gold Charlton Heston bus for gas and drive straight to Alabama. Dump truck our militia outside the courthouse. Round that son of a bitch with muskets and mustard gas. And by God, we gonna protect those 10 commandments hanging in them hallowed halls. The second one gives us the right to bear arms, and that comes directly from Christ's mouth himself. And ain't no comic Jew wetback gonna tell me otherwise. Yeah, I have a whole bunch of poems I'm working on about Mel Gibson's movie, but I'm not going to read one of the, but I'll just give you a quick, this is called Old Testament one-liner. So yeah, I invited Mel Gibson over to my house to get stoned. How are we doing on time?
I mean, it was good.
All right, so this is about a superhero. All right. It's called Look in the Sky. Third world, in Spain, the unnameable, untouchable, invisible white man, able to steal small countries in a single bond. White man wears 10-gallon hats of oxygen. White man is the son of famous forefathers, faces carved into Rushmore, generations of oil slave dollars. White man is always right. Man, stop asking. Alexander Graham Bell is a white man, so a white man makes unlimited phone calls to bank baron hotlines. White man is a daredevil sending puppets to barrios and ghettos at rent time. White man's Cadillac is parked in the sky, just out of the reach of children's dreams. White man is a speeding bullet aimed at justifiable homicide. Hio Silver, away from international tribunals. The Hague. By day, white man is a one-eyed reporter for the Gotham Daily. A cathode pharmacist prescribing obesity. A mild-mannered public school principal writing Columbus into curriculum. A gallant public official barking dogmatic. A leading Hollywood Christian Scientist protesting the ban of anal beads by coming out with a line of anal beads available at fine department stores. A billionaire bachelor hiding maids in the basement. Laborer mad at Mexicans. By night, white man throws bodies of color off the decks of yacht parties. Dangles lockets in front of sleepy-eyed domestics, hypnotizing their sweet honey in the rock. White man, democracies behind closed doors, cigar smoke and cognac. Secretary Day, laborers. White man feels up the babysitter on her night ride home. Drive-by clandestine colonialist secret op pick-up windows with 50-cent minstrel shows. White man spreads Coca-Cola like a virus. MTVD, Humpty Dumpty, empty memory eggshell erasure programs. White man butt wipes finger footprints from the land. White man's superpower is no memory. Forget a people here. White man walks alone for 3 seconds, claims discovery, sticks his pole into the soil, populates space with white men, his teeth like the sky, smile big as the Milky Way. White man is the brother of God's son. White man is heaven's gatekeeper, sole proprietor of the only game in town. White man won the Wild West, climbed Mount Everest, Mountain Miss Universe. White man keeps score, runs numbers. The fix is in, the jig is dancing. A metaphysical statistician of karmic destiny. All things point to his supremacy. White man's suckle green wetbacks stacked in 401k, Y2, KKK, tax-exempt pyramids. White man, faster than a swarm of locusts. Ebola, three-legged leper races. Genetically taller than Manute Bolt on stilts licking sickle cell good humor bars. White man is awesome dude, tubular, radical, Rolling Stone Beatles soundtracks bumping. Darwin dude, fucking Darwin. White man, a real American hero, an international superstar, history in the making, a man we'll read about for ages. So this is a poem I found on the train. It was a conversation on the Orange Line. It's called Disconnect, 1984 and the Failure of Education, or CPS Gets an F, You. What you reading, Joe? This book sucks, dog. Two boys banter on the Orange Line West. Vocational high school English classic. I gotta write about this dude being washed. For real? Salesmen headed back to New England via Midway hold laptop leather bags closer on creased khakis. The boys exit at Pulaski 55 years after the book first dropped. What you gonna write about? I don't even know. Blue light box video recorders hover over street lamp corners like spaceships. Aliens in the hood. Big brother in blue is white. Always watching. How are you doing on time?
We're good.
I'm good? Yeah. All right. In that case. I'm going to read, wrote this kind of series of monologues about Miss Muffet. You know?
Yeah.
Okay,
Yeah.
good. So this is called, maybe I'll read a couple. This is called The Flight of Miss Muffet, 1971. I mean, I was frightened. I like everybody, but spiders are scary. He just came over like I knew him, like we were friends. I don't know any spiders. I thought he might take something. I mean, because of my diet, I need certain organic and whole foods. I love farmers markets. Charlie and I love to get out of the city, drive through the country, stop at roadside blueberry stands, trailers full of corn. But anyway, food is sacred to me, and expensive. Now, I don't know what they eat. I do know we don't shop at the same places because I've never seen them there. I think people should be able to choose where they live. Spiders too, I guess. I mean, this is America, and that's why we're moving to the suburbs. I hear there are no spiders out there. There are good schools, and Charlie, once he asks for my hand, wants to raise a family with a backyard where our kids can play in a neighborhood without spiders. I mean, this city has more and more of them. They are loud and dangerous. I think it's time we leave. This is called Spider's Defense. Funny thing is, this is a family house. I grew up in the neighborhood, went south to school, stayed in Atlanta working for Coca-Cola's marketing department, but when my pops got sick last winter, he has diabetes, I came home to live with him. When he and my mom split, she moved back to Alabama with kinfolk. My pops stayed, stubborn and stolid, thin-ribbed white tanks, black leather armchair rubbed brown at the elbows. I've asked that Miss Muffet repeatedly if she would please ask her friends and all-night visitors to not block us in our parking space in back. I leave early for work, and God forbid if I have to drive my father to the doctor in the middle of the night. Early one morning, I had it. Every day that week, I had to ask her boyfriend to move his Corvette. Every day that week, I was late to work. I am new to this company. There was talk of moving into the suburbs, which would mean cutting jobs. Last hired, you know. Well, I had enough. I knocked on their door 49 times at 5 a.m. until they got up, came to the door smelling like smoke and cheese, TV still on, and I said in an extremely pleasant yet vociferous voice, "Move your fucking car!" There's another monologue, but this is the kind of the epilogue to that series. It's called New Millennium Aftermath. Miss Muffet's children bought up a building with low interest rates. Rows of condos cover graph writer Mondo, whose family's jobs moved out of state. Now I'll do this last poem, and then we go. Chi-Town is run down by division, streets. Divided in tribes, colored clans compete. Demand semi-automatics held by hands and feet. Thinking steel is what makes a fractured self complete. Gold teeth. More numerous among your peeps than sleep. Death creeps as men meet, deciding if your crib should be a place they should eat. It's deep. Young men are tenderized like meat, sodomized by police, and yet we talk about peace. We talk about peace, but we only seem to be talking. While workout window bunnies look spaced, they running in place to keep their waist for they hubby hump at the world marketplace. He's sucking pennies from the face to the faceless, taste his dayless planner, secretive like Bruce Wayne's manner, pulling economic lock hammers from Nigeria to Alabama, raping future mamas with the promise of glitter and glamour. But we can't stand the silence of the lambs, the violence at the hands of the CEO, corporate conglomerate name brand we have got to overstand. Grab hands and land to build strength with the fam, because right now, we being attacked with America's gun in our back. It wounds the young mothers in Africa black. Early tombs for children in homes in Iraq. Nike whiplash upon Asian girl back so white man can come home to plush condo 3 flat. Our culture vex culture, we wonder why that. Our children kill children with full loaded gat. As HIV rises, we tell pornography rap, so our families break up in the single mom's lap, cause the men are broke up like the rock from the crack. No longer we sit around meals and just laugh, but I wish we kick tails and drop science like math to blow sales towards a future when it's more than just half of a story that's told will be right and exact. When the youth will rise up and get knowledge like dap, collect pounds of respect to change the tides of this rap. When the youth will rise up, when the youth will rise up, when we will rise up to change the tides of this past.
Thanks, Kevin. It's all about creative talent tonight. So, when we first started talking about this, we were also trying to do something that is not necessarily typical. And again, like I said, tonight is a lot about first steps. For one thing, the Guild is hosting this event tonight, but it wasn't the idea that this was like the Guild owned this event. What we're really interested in doing is starting to bring creative voices together and saying, how do we work as, kind of small independent voices, but together be something bigger and make an impact. So it's not necessarily, and particularly these days, there's a lot of stuff going on, a lot of pressure around funding, if you're saying something different, that's not necessarily what's popular going on. And so I think, in a certain sense, a lot of us have gone into a protective mode. We're just going to worry about what's mine and making sure that we're okay. But ultimately, our hope is that as things move forward, this will be something that will, different people will come in and out of it, the organizations that do it, and we'll learn how to work with each other in a better way. Because I think we're all really good about being independent, but we're not necessarily so good about being together. And that's one of the things that we're really hoping, again, we're taking a first step tonight in that direction. So, for our next person who is together with us tonight, Dr. Eileen Cherry Chandler is an assistant professor of communication at DePaul University and has had a long-standing career as an arts activist, performer, and writer in Chicago. We're really pleased to have her with us tonight. She is a specialist in interdisciplinary arts education. Doesn't that sound fancy? What that means is she actually tries to take students out of the classroom and out into the city. She uses Chicago as her classroom. She tries to take her students out and say, the only place you can learn is not just in these four walls. There are other places too. And we've been the beneficiary of her great spirit in that regard. She's a performance scholar, currently working with students in the areas of autobiographical performance and spoken word, and her award-winning poetry and fiction have appeared in numerous literary journals. Really pleased, Eileen Cherry.
I am so pleased to be a part. Oh, I'm glad we have a chair. I'm very pleased to be a part of these activities tonight, and hoping that this will be the catalyst for the beginning of some wonderful work that needs to be done. And I know there's a lot that we can despair about, but this is also an opportunity. We have never, being an African American, I have never seen that separation between art and life. And particularly as growing up in the civil rights movement, baby, if it wasn't for those songs and those artists, and it all began with Steal Away, the song that the slaves developed to give signals to say, we're going to contest our condition, we're going to move forward. I'm not going to read from my own work tonight. I've selected two pieces. As I was talking with Tim and the rest of the folks here about the efforts that we're trying to make to bring those of us who are creative problem solvers and leaders in our own realm, how can we claim this public space? So I began to look through some of my favorite works, and I pulled two pieces. One of them was written by Langston Hughes. I'm going to read part of a short story featuring one of his character persona inventions, Jesse B. Simple. And Jesse B. Simple was a character that he invented during the Harlem Renaissance to sort of comment, to make political commentary on the activities of the day as they related to African Americans. And the second piece that I'm going to be reading is a poem by one of Chicago's own, Haki Matabuti, who comes through this place every once in a while, and it's called The Great Weight. And after I read these pieces, I'm interested in your responses to, and I think that they echo many of the issues that people have talked about already this evening. So this is from, as I said, Langston Hughes' story. It's called Jazz, Jive, and Jam. Sure, said Simple, but in my opinion, jazz, jive, and jam would be better for race relations than all of this high-flown gab, gaff, and gas the orators put out. All this talking that white folks do at meetings, and big Negroes too, about how to get along together, just a little jam session would have everybody getting along fine without having to listen to so many speeches. Why, last month, Joyce told me took me to a race relations seminar, which her club and 20 other clubs gave, and man, it lasted for 3 days. It started on a Friday night, and it was not over until Sunday afternoon. They had sessions, mammy. Joyce is a fiend for culture. And you sat through all of that? I did not sit Simple, I stood. I walked in and walked out. I smoked on the corner and snuck 2 drinks at the bar. I had to wait for Joyce, and I thought them speeches would never get over. My wife were a delegate from her club, so she had to stay, although I think Joyce just got tired of her own self. But she would not admit it. Joyce said, Dr. Hillary Thingamabob was certainly brilliant, was he not? I said he was not. Joyce said, what did you want the man to say? I said, I wish he had sung instead of said. That program needed some music to keep folks awake. Joyce said, our forum was not intended for a musical. It was intended to see how we can work out integration. I said, with a jazz band, they could work out integration in 10 minutes. Everybody would have been dancing together like they all did at the Savoy, colored and white, or down on the east side at them casinos on a Friday night when jams hold forth, and we would have been integrated. Joyce said, this was a serious seminar, aiming at facts, not fun. Baby, I said, what is more facts than acts? Jazz makes people get into action, move. Don't nobody move in a hall where you were except to jerk their head up when they went to sleep to keep anybody from seeing they was nodding. While that chairman, Mrs. Maxwell Reeves, almost lost her glasses off her nose. She jerked her head up so quick one time when that man you say was so brilliant was speaking. Just Simple, that is not so, yelled Joyce. Mrs. Maxwell Reeves was lost in thought. And if you think you saw me sleeping, you was too busy trying to look around and see what I was doing, I said. Thank God I did not have to sit there like you with the delegation. I would not be a delegate to no such gab fest for nothing on earth. I thought you was so interested in saving the race, said Joyce. Next time, I will not ask you to accompany me to no cultural events, Jessie B., because I can see you do not appreciate them. They were a discussion of ways and means, and you are talking about jazz bands. There's more ways than one to skin a cat, I said. A jazz band like Dukes or Hamps or Basie's sure would have helped that meeting. At least on Saturday afternoon, they could have used a little music to put some pep into the proceedings. Now, just say, for instance, baby, they was to open with jazz and close with jam and do the talking in between. Start out, for example, with the St. Louis Blues, which is a kind of colored national anthem, that would put every human in a good humor. Then play Why Don't You Do Right, which would be addressed to white folks. They could pat their feet to that. Then for a third number, before introducing the speaker, let some guest star like Pearl Bailey sing There'll Be Some Changes Made, which, as I understand it, were the theme of the meeting anyway, and all the Negroes would say, Amen. Joyce, I wish you would let me plan them interracial seminaries next time. After the music, let the speech maker roll for a while, and maybe a calypso between speeches. Then along about 5 o'clock, bring on the jam session, extra special. Start serving tea for two, played real cool. Whilst drinking tea and dancing, the race relationers could relate. The integrators could integrate. The desegregators desegregate. Joyce, you would not have to beg for a crowd to come and support our efforts then. Jam, and the hall would be jammed. Even if I could stick around and not be outside sneaking a smoke or trying to figure out how I can get to the bar before the resolutions are voted on. Resolve that we solve the race problem. Strike up the band. Hit it, man. Play that thing. How high the moon? How high, woo-wee! What did Joyce say to that? I demanded. Joyce just thought I was high, said Simple. We often know that many times they pull upon us as creative people as embellishment for, watch the conventions. I haven't seen coon shows like that since I went to the park. That's what I think of it. The one where all the colored folks are dancing around and you see white people who never had any rhythm before. They all just clapping their hands and just carrying on. But anyway, even in that performance, we are aware of the political dynamic there. So that's one way that we serve, one purpose that we serve on that level in terms of embellishment, in terms of performativity, in terms of learning how to present, how to communicate. We're looking at candidates now, and their biggest problem, the biggest issue is how they communicate. We're talking about the media, the transmission of messages and images. This poem, The Great Weight, is about waging war against unconsciousness. It's related to the hypnosis someone was talking about before. And it's a rant against inertia. We have to have, one of the other missions that we have as creative people is critical involvement. People come to us, they come to our shows, they come to hear our poetry, to see themselves, to try to work things out. And in a sense, they sort of see us as people who are conscious. And with that consciousness, we have a responsibility. So in this piece, Haki talks about both the movers and shakers, those people who are shaking our society to whatever direction they're trying to be taking it in, and those who are conscious. Great weight. It is possible that those persons who feel the need to act against evil will be told, be calm, have patience, don't get upset, be realistic, don't rock the boat, you're not so bad off, etc., etc. Conscious tire of waiting on waiters who wait for a living, as movers perfect the reasons why others must wait. Movers say that waiting is an ancient art form, perfected by Negroes waiting on something called freedom. That will surely come if the waiters wait patiently in the kneeling position long enough. Long enough is when the waiter's knees shine and head automatically drops whenever waiters are in the presence of movers that tell them to be grateful, to have something to wait for. Movers say that Africans can't even clothe themselves. that the major occupation in Central America is the maintenance of cemeteries, that the people of Asia need to control their sex drive, and the only people that really understand modern technology are the South Afrikaners and their brothers on Pennsylvania Avenue. And the major problem for others is that they do not want to wait for their time. Most of the waiters are poor and miseducated. Waiting, like cocaine, is addictive. People wait on welfare, work fare, hair fare, food fare, and for businessmen and politicians to be fair. Waiters are line-wise, having spent a third of their lives waiting in telephone lines, gas lines, light lines, bus lines, train lines, and unemployment lines. Waiting, waiting, tush, tush, tush. Waiting, waiting, tush, tush, tush. Waiters wait on presidents and first ladies to tell them the secret of why waiting is better than communism, socialism, and Hinduism. While waiting is more uplifting than full employment and is the coming tool to eliminate illiteracy and hunger. Waiting, waiting, tush. Western economists and sociologists have postulated that waiting is the answer to family separations and ignorance, that waiting will balance the budget and give waiters the insights into why others care more about their condition than they do. The conscious world waits on a people who have become professional waiters. The waiters' education clearly taught them to aspire to become either the waiter, waitee, or waited, for most wasted. Waiting, waiting, tush, tush, tush. Popular consensus has it that waiting builds character, cures dumbness and blindness. Waiting brings one closer to one's creator. Waiting is intelligent work. Waiting is the fat person's answer to exercise. Waiting will be featured on the Johnny Carson show this week, disguised as black urban professionals pushing the latest form of waiting, constructive engagement, waiting, waiting, tush, tush, tush. It is documented that waiting will save the great whale population. Waiting will feed the children of the Sudan. Waiting will stop acid rain. Waiting will save the great Amazon rainforest. Waiting will guarantee disarmament and peace. The major activity of waiters is watching television, sleeping, eating junk food, and having frequent bowel movements. Waiting, waiting, tush, 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 tush. Consciousness decays from waiting on people with plastic bags on their heads, waiting on Negroes that live for pleasure and money, only waiting on freedom, care for his children, waiting on to say no, waiting on $300 a day junkies, waiting on the people whose heroes are mostly dead, waiting on boldness from all this education we got, waiting on the brother, waiting on the sister, waiting on waiters who wait for a living, as movers perfect the reasons why others must wait. Waiting benefits non-waiters and their bankers. Most people are taught that waiting is the misunderstood form of action. Is the action that is closest to sex and barbecue consumption. Waiting, 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 waiting. A truly universal practice by millions and billions of people worldwide who have been confirmed by their leaders to be happy, satisfied, and brain dead.
Okay. We've had word. Now we're going to have word and sound. Going to do quick plug and kind of, other than my thanks for coming at the end of the night, my last kind of comments. I will say, if you're interested in the work that we do at the Guild, or any of the artists that you've seen here tonight, we do have a calendar. It is free. All you need to do is give us your email address or your home address, and we don't give it to anybody else. Not because we're selfish, but we understand you don't necessarily mean because you want to date us. You want to date everybody. So please feel free, and we hope that you'll come back. And again, presence is it's very important to us, and I think it's an important. It keeps happening, that knocking. I keep feeling saying, "Come in." And so, for example, an event we have upcoming, because we run kind of different kinds of events, on November 3rd, we're going to feature Lee Young Lee and Alexander Heyman, along with students who are just learning English as their second language. And the idea is there's a lot of discussion these days about, we're Americans. And that means that we all were born here and we all belong here, and anybody else, well, that's just their problem. And it's the idea that that isn't the way this country was founded, that isn't the multitude of voices that have always distinguished us. And so not only from the fact of different immigration experiences, but the idea of all of the different voices that tell similar yet somewhat different stories. So we hope that you'll join us then. And I will also say that I'm really excited. First off, I just want, if we could do a round of applause for everyone who's appeared so far. I really appreciate it. And the fact that, you're here, your presence, as I keep saying, is important to us. This was a week, the beginning of the week, it reminds me of something changes when your rock and roll icons start dying because of organ failure and not drug overdose. The third Ramon, man. I was just like, oh, come on. And, it was funny because when Joey Ramone died, I was in grad school, and I had gone back to school after a long period of time. And, I was in a class, everybody was bummed. I'm like, you don't understand. I was your age. I was 17, 18 years old. And I had never heard anything like that before. It just broke open my whole world, And then to understand that it was a voice that was about dissent and celebration and being different and all of those kind of things. And now, poor Johnny. Okay. But these people continue the voice on. Flutter combines, absolutely. Flutter combines Christine Ingersoll's dark pop, techno, shoegazer, and indie rock sound with Paul Dieterman's extensive background in underground dance music. Extensive. You better live up to that. 100% Unnatural webzine calls them a collision between pop and punk that channels all the spunk. Don't you like that? That sounds like a DJ. Pop and punk that channels all the spunk, if not the actual sound of the original new wave. They have opened for national acts such as Freeze Pop and Concrete Blonde. Their second LP, Toys in Coin Machines, has been getting steady play on stations such as WLUW 88.7, I know, the station of choice at the Guild Complex. Ms. Ingersoll is also active with other musicians working to get out the vote through Voting with the Underground, which we really appreciate. Absolutely, we do. Now, I'm hoping y'all are registered, but you know what? If you're not, it's okay. It's safe here. We won't tell anybody. You can go on over and sign up.
Stalin's watching you.
I just realized what that iconic image over my shoulder implicates. But that's okay. Stalin is watching. But, we're a safe space. Whoever you are, you can come. We won't tell anybody. In fact, we'll probably even give you a cookie if you register. So, and it's Chicago, so register again. That's cool. So I'm happy to present Flutter.
You please get a drink, stand. This is fun tonight, so yeah. And I don't have Paul with me because he's in Wisconsin. He's my producer guy. But I have Alan with me today. Yay! So thank you, Alan. We decided to match as well. Okay. gosh, I could even like talk about my songs a little bit. Yeah, I mean, what the heck? It's such a nice, intimate. The first song is I always feel like I'm gonna get run over by cars when I work downtown, and so it kind of freaks me out. So that's what this is about. Men in their big SUV.
You struck me while on the edge, running over, spilling over my treads. Your bumper sticker brags. He with the most toys wins when we're dead. Men in cars trying to run me down for a snapshot, for something that holds no part of me. Driving to the ground for a thrill, for a reason to hold an image. This near kiss, how close can it be now? You hide behind this hunk of steel, your heap of junk on wheels. Men in cars trying to run me down for a snapshot, for something that holds no part of me. Men in cars driving to the ground for a thrill, for a reason to hold an image. Will we meet again? Same place, same time. I'll look for you, I'll fall to you. Crossing the street is like winning the lottery. Men in cars try to run me down for a snapshot, for something that holds no part of me. Men in cars driving to the ground for a thrill, for a reason to hold an image. Men in cars trying to run me down for something that holds no part of me. Men in cars for a thrill. Sometimes you just want to go to a movie and forget all about it all. That's what this is. what to drive, just what I need to stay alive. Tastes great, culture free, anything you wanna be, just got reused by the latest out of use. I realize sleepwalking to a candy we take in stride. I realize sleepwalking, no hurry when I let life slide. I realize sleepwalking to a candy we take in stride. I realize sleepwalking, no hurry when I let life slide. I'm gonna stay alive. Don't ask us who we hurt. Don't justify, just use it. The deed's already done. Don't ask us why, just do it. I realize sleepwalking to a candy we take in stride. I realize sleepwalking, no hurry when I let the light I do shot days with hot days. I am very satisfied. trying to sell me, but what isn't worth to rearrange anybody's words. Dumbed down and Disney-fied, the point is lost, yet glorified. I feel I'm sleepwalking to a hand we were taking stride. I feel I'm sleepwalking, no heartbeat when I let life slide. I feel I'm sleepwalking to a hand we were taking stride. I feel I'm sleepwalking, no heartbeat when I let life slide. I feel I'm sleepwalking to a hand we were taking stride. I feel I'm sleepwalking, no heartbeat when I let life slide. I feel I'm sleepwalking to a hand we were taking stride. I feel I'm sleepwalking, no heartbeat when I let life slide. The next one I have sounds freaking yelling at me. I am going to see you later today, which is Saturday, which is the fourth day, which means we broke up on Wednesday. This means I'm going shopping. Getting in was easy, but getting out is a different story. Getting in was easy, but getting out is a different story. At an expensive store, I found old pants, cartoons fighting in bright red, and they make my ass look good. I'll make you suffer when you look at me tonight. Getting in was easy, but getting out is a different story. Getting in was easy, but getting out is a different story. As I left, on both sides of me was a protest. Palestinians and Israelis, each degrading, denying, discounting the other. Cameras catching the drama, while I walked back to my own with my hands wrapped in tissue. Oh, to make you suffer when you look at me tonight. Getting in was easy, but getting out is a different story. Getting in was easy, but getting out is a different story. The drama of the world competes with the drama in my head. So I don't know what I'm hearing. One's the world and one's just me. I can take a stand and tell them all what I think, but all I can think is, I got my pants. I'll make you suffer when you look at me tonight. Getting in was easy, but getting out is a different story. Getting in was easy, but getting out is a different story. I'm going to see you later today, which is Saturday, which is the fourth day, which means we broke up on Wednesday. This means I'm counting the days. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. Getting in was easy, but getting out is a different story. Getting in was easy, but getting out is a different story. Getting in was easy, but getting out is a different story. Getting in was easy, but getting out is a different story. That's right. My friend, these are a little less political, but my friend Justin McGrath wrote this, and he's a really awesome electronic artist. And he said I could perform this. He'd be happy. I wrote the lyrics and the rest of it, but I just want to give him that credit. because he rules. Anyways, I'm probably gonna work on him with him on my next album. Go ahead.
happening in the music industry, and I wrote this song. It helps me to write a song about these things. Let's do something else. I can't do anything until I do this. If I could have one wish, it would be one that I won't let go until it's perfect. You can mess up, but I wanna be perfect. Scratch, stitch, never goes away. Making it spread, turning bright red. Scratch, stitch. I'll make sure you pay your dues. While it's happy before you understand the price you pay, the endless demands. Scratch, stitch, it never goes away. Making it spread, turning bright red. Scratch, stitch. The obvious clue. Disillusion you, makes it all dream true. Wearing nothing but a guitar, a tempting trap for a young Pop-Tart, setting up very legal expectations that allow for misogynistic masturbation. Scratch, stitch, never goes away, making it spread, turning bright red. Scratch, stitch. Later through an obvious clue, disillusion you, makes it all dream true. Stamping out more sugar and spice, 'cause practice makes perfect. My last song, wait, I'm gonna say thank you. Thank you, everybody, for coming out tonight, and for listening to Water, and for listening to all the other awesome performances that we're doing today. And this is our last song. I'm really honored to be with these awesome people tonight, because it was really cool. So thank you, Gil Count.
disco light things. I just wanted to like walk around my house. Just like, hey, look at this thing of light. We have one more quick voice to hear from this evening, and you know, it's funny, at the Guild, a lot of times we talk about our interdisciplinary work, and the one place we seem to kind of have a blind spot is with the visual arts, and that is just not right. So I want to introduce Kathleen Duffy, who's going to talk about an installation that she's been working on, and so here she is.
Hi. I recommend too long, but I'm going to sit down anyway. I just wanted to talk a little bit about the collaborative that I'm involved with and the project we're working on, because this seems like a particularly wonderful audience for that. The name of my group is Anti-Gravity Surprise. We've been together for 3 years, and we are what's called a Public Arts Collaborative. Public because we make art with the general public, the community at large. Arts because we do all kinds of crazy work. We are photographers, writers, musicians, performance artists, everyone that you can think of, every discipline you can think of is involved in this group. And collaborative because the way we operate is we pick a social issue every year and then develop different projects around that. Our project this year is about the election and about the idea of leadership in general. If you saw the lovely fish dish up at the front door, our buttons, our campaign buttons are up there. I want a president who. This is the driving phrase behind our project this year. We've given out 2,000 buttons thus far and asked people to fill in however they would fill this in. We have also asked people to make campaign posters answering this as well, which will be on display during our events in October. I just want to tell you a little bit about them. We are doing 5 events in October at different artist-run venues throughout the city of Chicago, different neighborhoods as well. At each event, we will be displaying the art we've made with people since the beginning of the year and asking people to continue to make art with us, which will be instantly displayed. So I'm hoping you will come down and make some art with us. We have, besides our campaign posters and buttons, a game that's being made in the hopes of educating people on the differences or not between the presidential candidates. We have several video pieces, one which includes footage of George Bush not speaking at all, and a little booth where you can go in and tell him whatever you want to tell him, and he will listen to you. We have several installations that ask you to think about the ideas of leadership and what you want in the leader of a country. So we are hoping, what we're trying to do is foster critical thinking through the arts, and we would love to see every one of you out there with us at our events. To cap all of this off, we'll be doing a big party on election night at the Handlebar Cafe on North and Western, and that is going to be over the top. We have fire spinners, we have performance artists, we have musicians who will be wandering around. We'll be doing an open mic of poetry and music. So if any of you have anything to say, please come down and join us. And of course, cocktails, because I think I will be needing a drink that night. I don't know about anybody else. Exactly. So yeah, I'd like to just extend an invitation to all of you to please come down. What I wanted to mention is on the back of these buttons, this is a last minute invitation, and I'm sorry I don't have anything to hand out to you, but on the back of the buttons is our website, and as of tomorrow, there will be a schedule of all our events. We have a listing of our guest speakers. It's every Saturday in October, 1 to 4 p.m. at a different space throughout the city. And yeah, we'd really like to see you all down there, particularly because we are talking about the creative community and how we can put things together. And this is a way, I think, through the arts to be able to help people come to their own decisions. We're being bombarded right now with all this campaign information, and we just decided that we needed to do our own campaign of critical thinking and ask people to come to their own decisions. So thank you very much for the time tonight. And Tom, thank you again.
So I want to do one last rousing, mighty, doesn't matter how many hands there are, they make a lot of noise, For all of the people who have been here tonight, Tom Tresser, Kevin Koval, Dr. Eileen Cherry Chandler, Flutter, and Kathleen Duffy at the end. So please, let's give them a big round of applause. So again, the other day I was talking to some college students, not that I do that a lot, but I had the occasion to, and as I was trying to talk about why it's important to vote, why it's important to be part of the process, it ultimately, I guess, came down to the idea, the concept of voice. Once you realize that you have a voice and that somebody's listening to you, I don't think you ever get over that. I think that's a moment where your life ultimately makes a different direction, because you understand that you're part of not only what you think, but about something bigger. And so I know I'm kind of preaching to the choir here about it, but I also think there's one of these moments when we're all kind of out talking and advocating and doing all those things that we also forget to do the invitation. That first time you have to get up there and say those things and claim your voice, that is a scary moment. That's a hard place to be. So I would say, as we're all out there doing the things we're hoping to do and getting the people voting, remember to not just badger people about it, invite them to it, explain it, encourage them, let them know, yeah, it's a scary thing, but ultimately it's going to change your life. So thank you all so much for being here tonight. And hang out. We're not going anywhere. Thanks.